in 3 years, everyone standing will be out of business. 19 out of 20 are going to fail. If the room were 5 times bigger, if there were 100 people in the room in 7 years, there'll only be one of you in business.
Welcome back to Torch Talk, the podcast where we spotlight bold local leaders growing their businesses with grit and purpose. Today's guest brings over 30 years of deep experience in environmental health, indoor air quality, and industrial hygiene. Bob Bennett is the founder of Farsight Management and serves on the board of directors for the Indoor Air Quality Association. Since starting Farsight in 2000, Bob has led more than 6,000 mold inspections, advised on countless lead paint risk assessments, and trained hundreds of professionals in the science of healthy buildings. His philosophy is simple. If you want to be the smartest person in the room, you have to read every day and go to professional conferences. That commitment to lifelong learning has made Bob a respected voice in both the field and the classroom. In this conversation, we'll talk about what it takes to lead with integrity, educate for impact, and build a business that puts health and safety first. If you're curious how real-world expertise and relentless curiosity can shape an entire industry, don't miss this one. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Welcome to Torch Talk.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
So not only are you all of the things we said, which is the owner of Farsight and super impactful to the IAQA, you're also Fierce Creative Solutions OG customer, and you have been with us since the beginning. So
That is correct.
I believe I told you earlier today you were my favorite, or maybe the example. So we have a 4-year running relationship, so we have some history.
Yeah.
Things we can talk about. So
Yeah.
I appreciate hearing about your journey as a business owner and how far Farsight has come. So why don't you tell everybody, how did your journey begin and what led you to what you're doing today?
Well, it's an interesting buildup of sequences, because to be able to run a company is not a single block that you stand on. Let's say I go back to the days of, I was a hydrologist, and I specialized in groundwater flow contamination from landfills and underground storage tanks. And working in the environmental consulting industry, you have to become familiar with contracts, with proposals, with field work, with collection of samples, interpretation of laboratory data. How does an office set up and operate, and chain of command, and getting relationships with clients. So I had a lot of experience with the world before I chose to begin running my own company.
How old were you when you started Farsight? Do you mind me asking?
45.
So 45, the reason I asked that is I knew that you were older, you were well into your career, and sometimes people are afraid to start, or they think they're too old to start.
Yeah, those were back in the days. I was the vice president of a company in Canton, and the owner kind of self-destructed. So I found myself without a job. And so I was tired of working for other people. So I talked to my wife, and we decided to try this. And so I went to my bank. This is back in the days when banks were liberal about, lending. So I said, gee, I don't have a job. I want to live on my line of credit of my home and start a company. They said, sure, we'd love to own your house. So that's what I did for about a year and a half. I drove around the country taking 2, 3, 4-day classes on indoor air quality. And it was just a fluke that I had a friend in the Rotary Club that said, hey, I know that you're starting a company. I know that you're looking for different new growing lines of business. Here's an indoor air quality issue, a business that you can look at. I was already familiar with indoor air quality because in landfills, you have to do indoor air quality assessments on the homes that are around the landfill. And so I was used to doing Tedlar bags and suma canisters looking for volatile organic compounds. So anyway, I said, sure. So we went to Columbus actually for 3 days, and it was right what I was looking for. I thought,
I was going to say, the rest is really history, because you've embraced it in a way that most people have not even fully embraced it.
even to this
know
day.
so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're constantly learning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the difference between survival and failure is your willingness to take measured risk. You don't just jump into it. You actually look at it and determine whether or not it's a venture that you want to go down. It's like a path that you walk. So I took a small business administration class to start the company, and there was 20 of us in the class, and the instructor walks in and says, everyone stand up, and so we did, and he pointed someone and say, you sit down. They did. He said, okay, in 3 years, everyone standing will be out of business. 19 out of 20 are going to fail. If the room were 5 times bigger, if there were 100 people in the room in 7 years, there'll only be one of you in business. So, that he said, I don't want to discourage you. However, I want you to understand that this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And I would completely agree with him on that. I think the reason why I was able to survive is that I immediately chose to be a teacher. I think if someone's going to remember you, it's because you're the leader of the group. You want to be seen as the most intelligent person in the room. So I spent a lot of time learning before I opened my door and posted my shingle and started providing a service. And I immediately walked into the arena of being an instructor. And from that, I got some of my clients that I still have today. Even after all this time, 25 years, they still call me. And it was builders and, high-tech builders. But anyway, and some of my friends that I still use today who are subcontractors, we're still friends, and we still, provide referrals to each other, that kind of thing. So I think that was the first reason why I was able to survive, was teaching classes. And that built a whole snowball. But from that, it's quality control of whatever you do. Reputation is everything. So my first employee, Chris, has been with me for 22 years, and he's my vice president. And really, the reputation of our company is based on his focus of quality. His background is military, and he still has that very intense focus on everything he does. And, I've complimented him a number of times that, yeah, I'm the leader of the band and I know lots of technical stuff, but really the nit and the gritty of quality of providing a service is really his credit. So when we when we hire people into the company, one of the things that I always tell each potential employee is this is the only career that you'll have where your clients will give you a hug when you leave, because we really, truly, honestly help people in the society.
What do you actually? Let's talk about that a little bit. So, what do you do? Let's tell everybody. What does Farsight do?
Well, we do mold. We do both the consulting and the remediation. We also do volatile organic compound evaluations of properties.
What is that?
Volatile organic compounds?
Yeah, what's the layman's term of that?
Okay. Let's say we talk about formaldehyde.
Okay.
Formaldehyde is a volatile organic compound that is produced in glue. So a lot of the cabinets, a lot of the flooring that you use it'll have formaldehyde in it. And there's a percentage of the population that really has an effect on that. So let's say you put in a new kitchen cabinet, a new kitchen in your home. The literature is that the lower cabinets that are put into a new home, if it's a particle board material, has 9 pounds of formaldehyde in it in an average kitchen.
Wow.
That's a lot, and it'll be off-gassing for years. So we worked on a property that was a huge multi-million-dollar home, and the only way you can remove formaldehyde is by flushing. So we tried to identify, what products were carrying it. There's different ways of doing that. You had to identify the actual product that was applied to the product, or if it was the manufacturing of the material itself, like the lower kitchen cabinet. And then determine the quantity, and then determine the method of flushing. And there's a national standard for removing a volatile that's off-gassing, how many days you purge a house. There's no way of treatment or sealing. You actually just have to allow it to off-gas.
How so? We could go down a rabbit trail with that.
Yeah, sure could.
What do you do?
Yeah.
This is Bob, though, in essence, a rabbit trail of information.
Yes, I go.
So.
I'm guilty of thinking of little rabbit trails. So then we also do lead paint. That's a huge thing. In fact, the whole national lead paint program began because of Youngstown. Back in the 60s, I think it was 28% of children below the age of 5 had really high levels of lead in their blood. Mm-hmm. And, like America was one of the last industrial countries to make it illegal to be used in residential paints. And you use it because it had wonderful pigments. You could create color in paint using lead. Technology is developed now that they can do it with other things. But, so anyway, we do a lot of lead paint work, and that's really important. And then we do a lot of asbestos surveys. What else do we do?
What do you feel like makes you different? So we talk about this a lot. I know that what you do is different. I see the level of education that you put into things, but I think that in the public view, they may not know the difference between hiring you versus hiring a restoration expert or a restoration company that says that they specialize in mold. So what do you feel like, you guys do differently to help service your clients and take care of their problems?
There's probably 3 or 4 reasons for that. One is communication of our employees. Every Monday morning we have a staff meeting, and we have a set list of things that we discuss. And I want our employees to realize that they're not just lemmings coming to the office and going off into vehicles to go do work. I want them to feel like they're part of something. They're an important member. And so when one person makes a mistake, we don't point fingers. We don't criticize. The point of that mistake is to show everybody else that happened, and let's not have us as a company do that. Mm-hmm. And I think that understanding that we're not criticizing and making you embarrassed about making a mistake, that we're learning every day, mm-hmm. and everybody makes mistakes. And I think the attitude that our company has always had is that every company makes mistakes, but it's how you react to them. Mm-hmm. So if we make a mistake, we belly up to the bar and we take care of the client. If it's our fault. I think the other thing is the investment in our education. I don't think there's anyone who does what we do as far as sending our employees to additional training facilities, getting certifications, cross-training between people, so that if someone is out sick, someone else can take their place without hitching. And then I always read every day. I always invest in something new. Like I wanted to learn about how to collect samples on site real time. So I took a week-long class of working through a microscope so I could collect tape lift samples. And I could read them on site right then and there, and that'll tell me whether or not I've got some kind of a neurotoxin that we're dealing with, or something more, typical, like difference between chitonium and cladosporium or something like that.
What?
Yeah, well, there's thousands of molds, but you really only pick on maybe 20 to really determine the health effects of houses. Mm-hmm. Maybe 20, 25, that's about it. And, it's not just the molds, it's also the chemicals. So when you look at something and you say that's aspergillus, you need to know what kind of mycotoxins that kind of a mold produces, and what are the health symptoms of those mycotoxins. Because we always talk about mold, but actually it's the it's the chemicals that the molds produce that makes you whack and quack and all those things. And so many times we're just focused on the mold, but whether or not there's a mycotoxin, a lot of molds don't produce mycotoxins. So I think education is really, really the key. And then it's organization of an office. Mm-hmm. It's the having everybody understand how things in an office operate. When I took that small business class, what we discussed was the owner of the company is normally technically very good at what they do, but the reason why the company fails is because he doesn't know how to run an office. So I've hired people like a really good accountant. I've got a really good attorney. I hire marketing companies. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are things that I cannot do, and I'm willing to spend the time and the money. We dedicated 4 years ago that 10% of our total revenue would be dedicated to marketing. And so not a lot of companies are willing to do that. Mm-hmm. When I call other consultants in our line of work and I say, come to our conferences, learn more about what you do in life, 90% say no. Yeah. I'm still chasing money. We're not interested in reading or learning. We're just interested in chasing the money. As a result of that, they don't have enough revenue to create the marketing, and mm-hmm. then they can't develop the reputation. Yeah, reputation is everything.
Mm-hmm. What I was going to say, what's a challenge you've had to push through? And what did it teach you? And you've been in business for 25 years. That's a monumental. You hit 25 years this year. Congratulations on that. That's a really big accomplishment.
It is. Not many people make it.
25 years of owning a business. And that's why you have gray hair now. So
I do.
Nothing to do with the age, just all business ownership.
Yeah. I remember the first brochure that we ever made, and I was looking at it the other day, and I didn't have any gray hair. I don't know where it came from. That's okay. My dad, I lost him when he was 92, and he was a full head of gray hair, but he had more hair than I do.
Now?
And I was very happy to see that. I mean, genetics.
All anyway, right. In your 25-year history, can you think of like a challenge that you've really had to push through?
I think the reason why over 25 years there's been a lot of up and down in the economy, and I think the reason why we've been able to survive is because of our reputation, but also because of our control of costs. We don't have much overhead, and and we invest in training and we invest in equipment, not much else. As the owner, I don't use the company as a way of making an inappropriate amount of money. I mean, I could pay myself anything I wanted, but I pay myself the same as my vice president, really. We're very comparable into our actual incomes. And so I make a point of everyone understanding that I don't use this mm-hmm. as personal financial gain. It's I really believe in the concept that we are helping society, and it makes me feel good, But I think keeping track of low overhead and not pilfering the assets of the company, investing in your education, I think these are really the keys of being able to stay in business.
Can you think of I can think of a couple of stories. Like, what are some of the worst, craziest customer inspections or situations over your 25 years? Do you have one or two that would stick out to you as man, that was really wild? The bat dung story always sticks with me.
What?
The bat dung house.
Oh, yeah. I do a lot of litigation with attorneys, and I was on the witness stand just recently over that case. It took 5 years to get to court. So the strangest thing is this person left a state, and her grandchildren were in a very difficult place, and so she grabbed these kids and came to Ohio and bought a house and moved in. And so the first night they moved in, she saw the neighbors coming down the sidewalk and standing in front of her house, and was looking at her house. And she's doing the dishes, and she's going, I wonder what's going on. So she walks outside and goes across the street and introduces herself. And she says, what are you doing? And the group says, you don't know anything about your house? And she said, no. So they said, turn around and watch the show. And so she stands there, and the sun is just starting to go down. And suddenly hundreds and hundreds of bats start coming out of her attic. And it was just like a Hollywood thing where they're just circling around and around and around the roof of her house, and then they just take off to go eat something. And so she said it was like looking at something in the movies. So they no one had ever been up in the attic. And so they popped the lid, went up there, and there was 2 feet of guano.
Ugh.
And the problem with guano is histoplasma, is a kind of a mold that develops. There's also a serious bacteria that causes all kinds of physical issues. But histoplasma is pretty most famous for having such an impact on the body. And so, and it's in guano that is moist, and the moisture comes from the urine. Mm-hmm. So the property owners never disclosed to the buyer that this condition was there. And these buyers, if I told you their profession, you would understand that they would completely understand the requirement of disclosure, and they didn't. So that was the whole last 5 years, was arguing with the past property owner as to whether or not they should deal with this issue. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That one always sticks out at me. It's like a really wild story.
It's not a common problem. Of 25 years, that's really, I've only done maybe 3 bat assessments, and that was one of them. And that's obviously probably the most serious, because once you remove the guano, then you have to deal with the wood issue. Mm-hmm. And with an attic, it's very expands and contracts on a daily basis. It's a very moving object. You think your house attic is static and it's stationary, but it's not. It moves a lot. Mm-hmm. So if you put a maintenance material on it, like an encapsulant, then it's going to move and crack. So who's going to fix that? Mm-hmm.
So you just went to court with that, and it's all wrapped up now, but it took 5 years. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're going to do litigation work, you better come with your A game. Mm-hmm. It's not doing litigation work is not for the average consultant. You've really got to be way further out there. And there's training that you need to do. You need to know how to react to questions and to understand not the question, but the motivation behind the question. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what does success mean to you right now? You've come a long way, obviously accomplished a lot with Farsight. So, what does success look like now? What do you see coming in the future for you, the company?
I thought after 25 years it would get a little easier. But it seems like the bigger you grow, the more there is to do, or
more
maybe
money, more problems.
Yeah, I think. But I would say for our kind of business, because we are in there's such a huge demand and a great social awareness of what you breathe, and the requirement and the interest in making sure that your family is safe. Mm-hmm. The real estate industry has really changed over the last many years because of this awareness of them not wanting to buy a house that has mold in the attic or in the basement. Contractors no longer are just ignoring the issue and taking a broom to it. They're having us come in and doing the remediation, and the property owner is telling the contractor that's building their house, no, you're not going to do that, and I'm not going to sign the final papers unless you remove the mold correctly. So I think our industry is going to get bigger and more sophisticated. But when you watch social media, there are these people that are making these clips that are just so technically incorrect. You have to be careful of what you hear and what you read. There's a lot of incorrect, inappropriate things. The last technical presentation I gave at the Indoor Air Quality Association conference was a discussion of the products that are being used in remediation. And so I showed microscope photographs of penicillium. And then, this is what happens with hydrogen peroxide or sodium hypochlorite, or, the biocide products or the cleaning agents or bleach or any of this. And it showed, here's the before and then the after for most products. Hydrogen peroxide and sodium hypochlorite was the best. Then the rest you could see it had no effect whatsoever on the growth structure or on the spores. I think particularly with bleach, the reason why they use it is because it strips the color out of it. You can no longer see it because it's translucent. And but it's still there, and there's no evidence that it changes the mycotoxins that are there. So I don't know if I went down a rabbit hole like I usually do.
That was a rabbit trail. It was what does success look like to you?
Okay, it's just success to me is just more of what I do already. It's just more of it.
We need a succession plan is what we need. I know you think you're too young to be thinking about it, but what's the next phase of Bob's life look like? We need to get you in the air more, on an airplane more,
I would love to do less of the daily inspections, but so we are trying to increase the size of our staff in the consulting end of things, the remediation. But I think the quality of our employees have really stepped up. We've made some changes in personnel. And so the quality of what we do for people is better, but the consulting end of things, it's a long hard year of steep learning curve to be able to do what I do.
Well, and you really do love what you do.
I do.
That's why you can still you don't really. It's a lot to carry the weight of the business, but I don't really know that you look at it like work, like not in the same way as somebody does that's just going to a job. And so I understand, like you're very passionate about what you do, the education, helping people. It's like all you can talk about. So it's one of the things I appreciate about you is the commitment that you show.
Yeah.
In both the education and the customer care portion of it. And I know that nobody would have a better expert than to hire Farsight. Like I hear stories randomly about people having situations, and I always cringe a little bit when I hear that they might have had a different inspector or used a different company to take care of it, because I'm just never 100% sure that they would be taken care of in the same way as if they had hired you guys. And I say that honestly, whether I was doing your marketing or not, like just listening to you, you clearly bring another level of just education and knowledge that most people are not displaying.
No.
Here locally, I'm not saying like nationally, you have people who can operate at your level, but locally, I don't know that there's anybody else who really does it the way that you do.
Well, when you invest in your education, there's an organization called ACAC, which is the American Council for Accredited Certification. And to obtain a certification through them, say I have two of them. One is a professional microbial consultant. The other is a certified microbial remediation supervisor. To get either one of those takes 8 years to get. Mm-hmm. It's not a 1-week class. So the process is you either have a 4-year college degree and 4 years of work experience, or you have 8 years of work experience. But then you have to show like training programs and classes that you attend during that period of work. And then you have to go to their class for a week, and it's very intense, and take a big hairy test. And then you put this packet together of all of your history, like a resume in a way, but there's more to it. You have to show 25, 30 projects that you've worked on and what you do and how difficult was it and blah, blah, blah. And then you send that packet to the board of directors, and they look at it, and they vote on whether or not you are qualified to have that certification. So it's very, very difficult to get that, to get those types of certifications.
And you and Chris both have those, don't you?
Yeah. And there's one other person there in Cincinnati who has the same certification as us, and he's on the board of directors
And that's
as well.
all for the state of Ohio?
Yeah, that's it.
My goodness.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
So anyway, investment in your education, you can never go wrong with that. Yeah.
Okay, closing thought. What do you
Yeah.
wish every homeowner knew? Like, if you could give homeowners a message, they might be dealing with a problem. What's something that you just wish that you could tell everybody?
Let's talk about mold for a second. So mold is the symptom, and water is the problem. So you cannot get mold without water. And water can exist in either humidity or in liquid form. And to say that every house has mold in it is incorrect. And if you're gonna have someone look at this kind of an issue in your home, you really need to find someone who's specialized in this. I used to teach classes for home inspectors, and they're not trained in this. They don't walk in a house. They can't use moisture meters. There's a lot of stuff. So anyway, if you're buying a house, have a specialist like me, look at it before you buy it.
What, everybody, no matter what, or only if there's signs? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're buying a house, should you always have a special mold inspection done?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether
I
you
really
smell
do.
anything, see anything, just as a safety precaution.
That's correct. It's
Okay.
the most expensive thing you'll ever buy.
Yeah.
Is your house. It's a couple $100. It's not a big deal. So I can't tell you how many times I go to a house that a home inspector has looked at, and I'm saying, why didn't they see this? The one I'm working on right now, they had a ceramic floor to a bathroom. I always grab the toilet and shake it from left to right, and it's how it's seated on the wax ring. And what we found was water was flowing underneath the ceramic floor, and you cannot determine that unless you know to shake that toilet and then take a non-penetrating moisture meter and scroll it across the floor. So you just have to know a few tricks, and it takes years to learn all those tricks. And so home inspectors aren't allowed to do the things we can do.
So everybody should get a mold inspection when buying a house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other advice?
And just remember that odor is just a symptom of the presence of mold that is growing. So you can go into a house that has mold all over it, and you not going to be able to smell it, because the odor is an off gas from having enough moisture present for it to be growing. So if you smell something, A, it's there, B, it's growing because you have too much moisture. So just be aware. If you don't smell something, it doesn't mean that it's not there. And you're not allergic to what you smell. You're going to react to the things that you can't taste or smell. They're hidden objects in the air.
Okay. Good final thoughts. Well, I really appreciate the candid conversation today, and you sharing the history of Farsight and kind of where you are at, what you specialize in. So thank you, Bob, very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And thanks, everyone. Stay tuned for the next episode of Torch Talk.